the, aging differently. So I'm really honored to be here, and I'm honored to have this conversation for sure.
Thank you. Well, one of the things we've been talking a lot about is this healing journey. A lot of people are on a healing journey. Why do you say that being healthy doesn't necessarily mean that you bring back the youthful vitality? And I'll preface to say I have utmost respect for people that do different diets, like a vegan diet, or people that exercise a lot, but that doesn't necessarily bring back youthfulness. Sometimes, we can do all these protocols, but start to look even older, like on particular diets or losing weight. Why
Right.
do you say that?
Right, right. Well, first, actually, just to kind of put this into perspective on, how I kind of came to this in my evolution of in my practice for almost 40 years, and my own personal experience. I've been doing acupuncture, functional medicine, energy medicine for a long time. And because really the goal is not just health, it's actually thriving as that new goal versus just getting healthy, right? So what does that actually mean, thriving, right? So we're talking about retuning and frequencies and things like that. It's about the energy systems, the skin, which is a representation, and the connection to our higher self. So when I'm talking about, or when we talk about we're eating all the right things, we're doing all the right things. Maybe, we're getting treatments and exercising and doing acupuncture and doing our meditation. But, sometimes when you look in the mirror, it's not the same reflection, right?
Mm.
Not the same reflection where you think to yourself, why don't I look as good as I feel, right? Or why don't I look as young as I feel? People say that all the time. And I'm noticing even on the comments, there's a woman who's like, I'm going to live way past 99 here. And the point with that is that on an energetic level, she feels, and we all often feel really youthful. So I want people to know that when you look in the mirror and you may not see that parallel, our skin is a representation of what's going on internally as well. So there is something that's not quite in tune with the rest of your body. And that's what I really want to talk about today.
Okay. And you've used a term that I don't think I've heard anyone really talk about, this cellular coherence.
Mm,
And what does that mean? Does that mean like we are coherent to a frequency of youth, or explain that?
okay. All right. So, um, like you mentioned, everything has a frequency, right? And you're saying like it's good frequencies or bad frequencies, it's still a frequency. And sometimes what happens is we get very stuck in old frequencies in ourselves, in our organs, in our nervous system. And what we really thrive for, what we really are looking for is to be able to figure out how to create that vibrational frequency that retunes to a healthy vibrating cell of that, of the 25-year-old cell. So it's possible, right? It's possible. The bottom line is how do we communicate that information so that all of our cells can be learned to vibrate at that healthy frequency? And that's the key. The key is how do we get that to happen?
So we're trying to teach them and get them to learn to vibrate at that frequency. What would throw off that communication, or that natural learning that they had? What would make that, I guess, that connection to this information maybe disrupted or clogged? What do you
Yeah.
see?
There's a lot of reasons why that can happen. And really, life happens, right? So,
Mm.
our stress, our environment, illness, loss of relationships, loss of people, all of these things can really stir up and change our vibrational frequency. The difference here is resilience. Can we spring back? Can we
Okay.
can we bring it forward? And this is why I talk about the face, is because the face is a representation of what we are actually holding. So, and when you think about it, it actually it makes sense because the skin is the largest organ. And we can't, you can put clothes on your body, but you can't, cover the face in a way that really hides that. So all of those lines of expression, all of those stressors can get stuck in our cells and show up as deep lines around our mouth and along the between the eyebrows, across the forehead, neck, jawline. All of those are representation to me as to what's going on a deeper level.
You had a healing story, soul healing story, energy healing story, however you want to put it. You yourself had a lot of challenges and they started to show up in many different ways in your body. What was going on? Take us back to Dr. Cathy Goldstein before all of this knowledge, kind of going down the track that you were on. What was showing up and what happened in your life?
Okay, so I actually was finishing some prerequisites to go to medical school because I thought that was the direction that I wanted, but the universe had a different plan, right? And I got really, really sick with an autoimmune disorder, ended up in the hospital for months, had multiple surgeries, 7 surgeries just to save my life, almost died a couple of times, definitely was struggling to just, stay on this planet in this form. And ultimately, what happened was I needed that kind of an experience to shift me and to shift my direction to, where I am now. And I'm sure I'll have other shifts in my life. But I realized that medical school was not the direction that I needed to go. I needed to do, something else. For me, acupuncture was my first introduction into a different kind of holistic health that absolutely changed my life. And I learned a lot about energy medicine, just even with acupuncture, let alone all of the study that I continue to do, because it also is about not, for me, it wasn't about just doing the acupuncture and just, getting that healed, but all of the emotional
Right,
stressors that went with
right.
that, being able to heal that too.
And you noticed something. I mean, you tell the story. You had
Mm,
finally soul healed from the illnesses
mhm.
miraculously through your knowledge and everything you pursued. But then you noticed you were still, it sounds like carrying the energy of it in a particular part of your body. And I say this for everybody. If you've been doing healing work, you've moved through trauma, you've survived the divorce, you've survived the challenges, you've survived maybe the passing of people you love, you survived just the friction of time and you're still here. But like Dr. Cathy, you may be carrying some of that in a place you don't want. Tell me what happened. When did you notice that? What was going on?
Okay, so you're spot on. So at 49, I was visiting a friend of mine's clinic, and when I got up to greet him, coming down the hallway, I inadvertently caught myself in the mirror, and I was shocked. First of all, I was so disappointed with what I saw. I had no idea, one, when that had happened, and two, it was like, how is it that I'm eating all the right things. I'm doing all the right things. I feel pretty good. But why did my face look like I was at least 15 years older? That was at 49. I'm 65 now. And I I knew that,
You have nothing on your face but smoothness.
well, I went to work. Trust me, right? I went to work. I got back and I said, let me just think about what I need to
Amazing.
do to refocus what my practice is about. And I knew I was doing like great healing work,
Yeah.
but what I was missing how important like emotional release was and how important, getting rid of toxins was. And then also, I mean, the biggest thing is the need for some type of energy medicine that really addressed the face and the skin.
Yeah, and you discovered that there was like a communication line, a line of communication that was really important. And if we look at this from just what we know through, Chinese medicine, the
Mm.
face is not just the face. I mean, it's a connection to lines of energy, to acupressure points, acupuncture points. There's all sorts of wisdom channels that begin at the face or that travel to the face. You've labeled this in the past something like the information highway or the energy highway, I think it is. What is that energy highway? And what are some signs that maybe that energy highway is a bit clogged? How does that show up?
Okay, so you are absolutely right. The face has a lot of energy pathways. I've got my little head right here that shows
Oh, yeah.
acupuncture points and all of the meridians that go through the face. And so and they don't just go through the face, they go through the entire body. So what you do to the face, what you do to the skin affects all of the organs and systems in Chinese medicine. So, um, so there's three different types of energy that, if you will, that I focus on when I'm working and treating people. One is actually the physical energy. Physical energy meaning, how is this nervous system working on like positive and negative ions, like you experience, touching a hot stove and burning your finger, and the information goes to your brain and goes back to your hand and you learn, right? That's the super, super
Yes.
slow, right? Then there's the what's called the liquid nervous system. The liquid nervous system is the system that involves all of the neuropeptides, hormones, all of the chemicals, all of the things that are in our actual blood and lymph and throughout our body, that moves really, really quickly. Like what you do, like for example, if someone's done like a IV of vitamin C, as soon as you put the IV in one arm for the vitamin C, you can draw that from the opposite side. At the same time you start and you draw, you will see the increase in vitamin C. So, and you can taste it in your mouth, right? So that's a really fast pathway. Now
Is
the
that kind of like non-locality? And we'll get into this a little bit of quantum physics, but this idea, there was an experiment where they took like a little bit of somebody's gum
right.
and they drove it like, and I'm going to paraphrase as I could be wrong in the mouth, like 50 miles away. And they were able to measure some sort of reaction to that tissue based on whatever they did to the original host, to the person whose
Right.
mouth it came from. And they noticed that there was still an effect. There was still a non-local effect that was happening, regardless of the distance between those two things. And I mean, that if that's true, then our body can have that same effect very rapidly, right?
Right. So there's two components to that. So what that is that, and this is the research, is they took a scraping of the cells on the inside lining of someone's cheek, and they put it in a Peachtree dish where they were able to control the environment, make sure it was clean, detoxed. The cells were detoxed and gave those cells the nutrients that they need. And they took it into another room initially, and they stimulated an emotional reaction from the host that the cells came from, and the cells reacted at the same time. So then they took the cells and moved them even further away to another state, say,
Yeah.
and they performed the same experiment and had the same outcome. So that's two things. One is the biochemical reaction happens, and that's super, super important because it speaks to the actual physiology of our energy and stimulating what happens to our, like what happens to our cell, like emotionally, that actually has an effect on the cells and you secrete things, right? The other is the biophoton highway that you mentioned, that energy highway. That's where the frequency of the experience is instantaneously received by that cell. So it gets that information like that. And that is where the biophoton or the energy highway is super fast and is not limited to our physiology, but is our universal energy that we communicate with. And that's why when you started in the beginning and read that theory, read that experience, read that idea, that it speaks right here. It speaks right here in this spot because that's how we pick up on energy and that's how we put out energy from the universe.
Amazing. Let me ask everyone, what do you think about what we're sharing? Do you kind of get this idea? Is it giving you chills? And what does it make you think is possible? Right.
Mm.
So if we bring in a frequency of vitamin C and immediately that affects other parts of the bodies of our body, even before it reaches those cells, could we take the frequency of a young cell, of a free and clear, vibrant cell, and then would that inform our existing cells, right? And would that then maybe affect our whole body or just make us feel better all around? I'd like to hear your comments. So, I mean, we're kind of getting into this idea of quantum energy medicine and body frequencies. Share a little bit more on that, because you started to discover this, and as you started to unwind this, what happened to you, and how did quantum energy medicine and these frequencies play a part?
Right. So the bioenergy, that the energetics that happens in that energetic field, when you can feed the cells exactly what they need to learn how to vibrate at a healthy frequency. This was my goal. I know that with acupuncture, I'm re-educating that all those meridians and all of the energy of those meridians to perform how they need to. So really, it was just taking it to another level in getting to all of the cell functions in that biophoton highway that extended beyond the meridians and beyond our physical body. So it was it was electromagnetic communication fields, like that cellular messaging that actually travels. So what happened was, in the process of developing that, well, let me actually talk about how I developed that. So in my clinic, we will do like a treatment, whether it's, acupuncture or some type of process. And then we have a room that we call the integration room. And in the
Okay.
integration room, we're using all kinds of energy, vibrational frequency, whether it's sound, whether it's light, whether it's crystals, whether it's a combination of those. And we're pulling all of those together. And the reason why is because we want the body to keep vibrating at the frequency we just tuned it to by doing the treatment. And that's super, super key and important, because life happens. You do a treatment, you go out into the world, someone almost hits your car, and that treatment is like gone, right?
Right.
So this is about resilience. This is about enabling the body to be able to take a little heat, take a little pressure, take a little bump, and still be able to resonate at that beautiful, perfect frequency.
Wow. Wow. Now, Dr. Cathy, I know I've been throwing questions at you, and we've been super excited about that. Marie says, from a quantum perspective, it is absolutely happening. I agree. We are shifting. We're becoming different beings, no doubt, as we get exposed to more of this energy. Judith said, Dr. Cathy, you look great. Annette says, I love Soda Light. I'm very excited about this mask that you're going to be talking about in the discovery. It's all new to me, says Annette. Bring it on. Yeah, we're going to talk about it all. I know you may have a presentation or any sort of slides you want to show, because there is a lot of this that really, it can only be explained in pictures. So I don't want to keep you if you want to open up slides or anything like that. I know I've been firing questions at you pretty deep here. Let me know what your biggest questions are, everyone, and we're going to dive in and find out more about kind of how this works and how actually all of this affects people. You say that one of the things that happens is they are different frequencies associated with some of this work. One of the things you isolated that I find is kind of wild. You first mentioned the skin cell, like 25-year-old skin cell, and then something else you've defined as the beauty frequency. And I think, Dr. Cathy, you're going to show us some pictures of people who have been exposed to this frequency, which is pretty amazing. You're going to be blown away. But what is the beauty frequency, and what's in it, and what is the deal with the 25-year-old frequency, cell frequency of a 25-year-old?
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, what is the deal with that, right?
Yeah, what
So,
is the deal with that? How do we get that? Let's just bathe in that, right? We're just gonna create a whole frequency field, create a med bed with that stuff, right? Why
right,
not?
right. Well, it is quite a process. And really I think there's a new amazing and beautiful wave of people really realizing that energy medicine is the way to heal. That
Yeah.
we used to think of it as the future, but the reality of it is that it is the only way we're going to heal. It's going with nature, not against it. And by retuning ourselves is the way that we get the body to actually be and feel and act younger. So what I take it to another level, and what I do, of course, right? And what I do is I'm actually using a communication line that the body understands. So
Okay.
I know the frequency that the body speaks is light energy, biophoton energy, bio, body, or
Okay.
life, photon, light. And that's our body. It's how we pick up information, it's how we take in information, it's how we adapt to our outside world is through all of that frequency. So when I developed the process, I took thousands of different frequencies having to do with not just collagen and collagen production, which is huge, but also how the cell detoxes, how the cell repairs.
Yes.
It does its integration and integrity of the cell and the cell wall. So all of those things are imprinted into what I call reagents that I can imprint then into a little blue or green bead into the facelift wand, into the body wand, whatever it is, and I can have that tool vibrate at that frequency, that's that biophoton resonating frequency, so the body understands it so it can learn. So much like a tuning fork, right? When our body's out of tune due to illness,
Yes.
right? Anything like that, we can bring a healthy vibrating tuning fork just close to that ill or unhealthy vibrating,
Yes.
fork, and it will pick up the right frequency and start vibrating to that exact healthy frequency because the body wants to be healthy. It wants to vibrate there, and it will, re-educate and without even touching them.
Incredible. Incredible. And I think this makes sense if we know about entrainment and how energy works. I always think of the story of a bunch of, dogs. If you ever had like a bunch of dogs or seen a bunch of dogs laying down sleeping, you'll notice they're all breathing at the exact same rate and they're not communicating with each other. They're not trying to, but there's this natural biorhythmic entrainment that our bodies, our breathing systems, our respiratory systems, our cells, they get into this entrainment. And the real question is, are you entraining to energies that are restorative or are they destructive? And unfortunately, in our natural world, our unnatural world of today, there's a lot of destructive energies. Now, Dr. Cathy, I don't know if you want to share some pictures and
Okay.
some examples of this, because you've got, I mean, so many different examples of people that absolutely shifted when they are connected to this energy, and their skin begins to behave in many respects like it's much younger skin. And Dr. Cathy is going to share that with us.
Right.
And she's also going to share some of the interesting things that she found out with collagen. And we're going to be talking about blue soda light and some of that energy and what that could be doing in the facial meridian. So, yeah, we got a lot to cover. And if anyone's listening in on the live stream on any of the social sites, you're going to want to click the link because we're going to have the full interview posted in a very particular place. But let's go right here to this. Wow, it's this interesting presentation, and we'll dig in some more.
Okay. So first of all,
Can you
I
expand
actually
it, Dr. Cathy, or open your window just a little bit? That particular window, the one. Okay, yeah, that one. If,
I can redo that. Hold on one second. Let me stop the screen share. And,
make sure nobody misses.
so the other thing that I wanted to mention to you about that as well when you were talking about retunement, like or entrainment, things like that, is that a lot of times what I actually refer to as limbic resonance. And what that people, moms know that with their kids, they can train their kids' fever to come down just by connecting with them, and it is hugely important in just health and healing for sure. So that's a beautiful thing.
Okay.
So I think this is it right here, right?
Yep, that's it. Just enlarge that window because I can see a little bit of your desktop. I think if you just pull that window out, it'll yeah, that one. There you go.
All right.
That'll give everybody the full view.
All right. Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. So I kind of put them all together here because there are so many aspects that change And these are all women who have taken their own photographs. They're not touched by any means. They've taken their own, they send them in. Put them side by side and I help them in any areas that they have concerns. And this is what we have. So this is 30 days. You can see in this top one right here, this is 30 days of where you can really see not only skin texture, it's the replumping of the skin. This woman looks like this is the plumpingness of a 30-year-old little cheek, but you can also see where that line is right there. That's flatness. That's a huge area that makes us look tired and age. If you look at this chest right here, you'll, you can't, if you went to a dermatologist or a cosmetologist or a surgeon, they'd say you would need to do chemical peels and light and things like that to get results like
Yeah, this
this.
is not on the face. This is in the chest. This is
Yeah.
like in right here. Wow.
Yeah.
So it's the second one. It's amazing. What do y'all think about that? I mean, this is frequency, right? I mean, this is frequency. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when you look at, this is where it just even changes the posture where you're not, these are the muscles that tighten, that pull our chin back, as well as redefining the jawline. This is actually one of my favorites because it's not just the lines on the forehead that go away. It's not just the lift in the eyebrow or the eyelid off of the eye, or even just this angle right here where the eye looks like it's going downward, where it opens up on the side right here. The biggest thing for me is vitality. This woman's vitality really shows. And I'll tell you, when I'm using the protocol, like on a really consistent level, because I've been using it for years, so sometimes I take breaks. When I'm using it daily, people will tell me, you look like you have so much energy. You look really, bright, and you look really young. You look really healthy. You look, these are the comments. And I think this is really the energy of it. In addition to, results like this is really good.
Yeah,
Um,
we're gonna I want to read a comment real quick because Annette, who she must see some energy here too, I'm sure, says,
mhm.
I see a much deeper shift in the confidence and the posture. Again, remember, our face is not just our face, it's the starting point or maybe the end point of a lot of energy channels and pathways. It's also the store and record keeper of our life experiences. So if we can bring the free, open, youthful energy back to those cells that they once knew, could that be informing the rest of our body to also follow suit? Remember what we said about entrainment, the vitamin C. So, there's a lot here. I mean, it's kind of like a new dawn of humanity, and we're throwing these things out there. But Dr. Cathy, the other thing I want to share before we cut the live stream for the rest of the folks on social media, you've also seen some wild things related to collagen production, things that people in the industry did not think were possible.
That's
Tell me
right.
about that. I mean, these are people that looked at this from a lab perspective. They were shocked.
That's right. That's right. So, um, I, uh, when I first developed True Energy, and the principles and the ideas, and then my prototypes, I actually wanted to make sure that it had the benefits that I was seeing in my clinic if I put it in somebody else's hands to have them do it on their own.
Yeah.
And I went to Dr. Pugliese, who was the big muckety muck, if you will, of not just skincare, things like that, but he did all of this research and had tons of patents. And what happened was, after 15 days, he actually called me on the phone, which he never does, and says, I don't know how these women are getting these results. They look like they've had many makeovers, or not, I'm sorry, many facelifts, not makeovers, many facelifts. And then when we got to the 30 days, and he did all of his measurements because he used this technology in measuring the bounce and the elastin and things like that. He reported that the women had gotten 25% increase in collagen. Now, let me tell you why that is so
Mm.
significant. It takes 45 days to just begin the production of new collagen. 45 days. after 30 days, they were already at 25% increase in collagen. This is amazing. This is really, really innovative. He had never seen anything like it. So yes, I was thrilled and knew that, yes, now I can, women can take this out, use this themselves, and get the results that I've been seeing.
Yeah. And so by combining frequency and entrainment and all of these elements, there were results that totally surpassed just putting something on the skin. So this world of energy, medicine, energy, frequency is real. And if you are enjoying this, you're going to want to, if you're listening on any of the social sites, go down and click the link. You'll get the full video on Dr. Cathy's page. But if you are here with us at Youthful Revolution, you're going to get everything. We're going to do an energy process. We're going to do a lot more. So stay tuned, Dr. Cathy. Let's go back to some of those pictures. I want to share a little more, and we're going to keep going.